Hey folks, how's it going? It is Dave and Matt. We are back for a brand new episode of SUWAMA'S Station, the official podcast of All Japan Worldwide Fan Group. We want to thank you all for subscribing and listening and joining us. And if it sounds a little crazy in the background, it's because my compatriot Matt is actually hard at work. He's here hanging with us.
That's right. I am hard at work at the Postal Service, but I am here to deliver the great news, the great wrestling with my friend here. So we have a lot in store for you. Like I said, we have good wrestling. We have great interviews, news.
This episode, okay, we've got part 2 of that interview with Kea, as well as a special interview that we did with Fumi Saito. Going to talk with us about the Noah All Japan split from 2000. It's probably one of our favorite interviews that we've done so far, and we're hoping that you guys like it and enjoy it. And we're really hoping that you're subscribing to the YouTube. We hope you're checking it out on Spotify. But we want you to, if you love it, spread the gospel. Tell people about it. Tell, anybody who loves wrestling podcasts that there's an English All Japan Worldwide Fan Group podcast for All Japan that talks about All Japan then, now, and the future. Because, guys like Aoyagi, as well as, Francesco Akira, I would definitely say would be smart to be a part of the future of All Japan, because even if he's not going to be a full-time worker, he can definitely show up and do shows, and the fans will still love him, and I'm sure he'd be willing to.
If he was a full-time worker, he would definitely be a top junior, 100%.
I would go and put the belt on Akira next, if it was me, right now, and then have him drop it before he goes back to Italy. Only because Iwamoto is the king of the division, and look at many times that Masafuchi won and lost the title, but think about how long he collectively held that belt. Iwamoto he owns that division. He's not going anywhere, and
no. I
feel as though it wouldn't be the worst thing if Akira won it for, Tiger Mask. I'm sorry. Dynamite Kid won the international junior heavyweight title, NWA International Junior Heavyweight title, for like 5 days, and then lost it, like that. But I'm pretty sure it was like a thank you kind of thing, or just transition. But whatever. Point is that Akira has definitely earned it, and I would say that you got to strike while the iron's hot.
News. Yusuke Okada has ended his contract on New Year's Eve. He will be a free agent in 2021. This was surprising news. He said he will still do shows in All Japan, but at the long run, we'll see him in different things wrestling. How did you feel about that when you heard that?
I love All Japan so much, and the thing is that we love it, but we also want to kind of be able to take the step away from our fandom to be able to look at realistic things, and you have to look at realistic situations in a wrestling promotion with personnel, with finances. This is a business at the end of the day, and so my feeling really was that something was not clicking, because Okada was hot. He was a hot commodity when he was with Evolution, right? He was the young boy. He was taking losses, but he looked really strong, and I remember watching him on his debut and just being a big fan of his as he sort of was climbing the ranks, and then it kind of seemed to be coincidentally around the time he leaves Evolution, and he's kind of trying to strike it out on his own, which I thought would be really good. And when that didn't happen, I was like, okay, something's going on, because he's taking a lot of falls. He's not looking as strong as he used to. He's got those awesome new tights, but besides that, he hasn't shown a lot of growth since then. And I felt like he was like a breakout star just waiting to get out, and so this has happened, and you have to wonder what kind of things play behind the decision of Okada to decide to not re-sign with All Japan. As you mentioned, he's going to probably continue doing shows as a freelancer, right? Obviously, there are going to be eyes on him as to where he is available, where he could go. There's options, lots of options right now for a guy. You know, he's a young, talented wrestler.
Generally not surprised. I felt like he was the level where he was at. Like, there was going to be no signs of moving up or anything like that. I figured he would try to move up after Aoki passing over a year ago. I'd be part of the guys to step up in the junior division, but that wasn't the case because you have Koji Iwamoto and Hikaru Sato being the guys that are elevated in the junior division, while Okada just turned into a fall guy. And like, if they weren't going to use him, and this was like the limit he was at right now, business-wise, it's smart to go. Again, he did all he could right there and now, and I wish him nothing but the best. I want him to succeed. I'm sure he'll spread his wings, travel around Japan to grow more as a wrestler, and maybe he'll come back one day. We'll see. But in the long run, I am happy for him, and I wish him luck.
Some really talented young wrestlers decide that they're going to hang it up early, and you know we can't fault them for that because they're just thinking about their future. You know, they're the only ones that are really thinking about their future because it's directly involving them. But there's been some talk on Twitter and various groups about the feeling that Akiyama, when he departed from All Japan, that's when Okada's stock kind of sharply fell, and he was taking losses and being in the, you know, he was still in the openers, even though he had grown from being a rookie. And, you know, you mentioned the fact that, you know, the Aoki, you know, situation and Okada and Sato being directly linked to that. And, I mean, that's a lot of momentum lost right there because Okada definitely was somebody that Aoki spent a lot of time working with. And you have to imagine that this is a big loss for All Japan's. If you look at wrestling promotions, their growth is tied into their rookies, their youth movement. And Okada was definitely on his way to stepping up to that next echelon. And, you know, just real quick, you know, we want to talk about how, you know, position-wise, it's really hard to figure a position for Okada, you know, besides being a comedy wrestler, I suppose, because he was obviously getting a build towards being bigger than a junior heavyweight. And while at the junior heavyweight division, you've got Iwamoto, and then obviously you've got guys that are starting to be a bit more exciting than Okada, but that's not a fault of his. It's just, I believe that they booked the three rookies a bit stronger than Okada and gave them a lot of character and flavor within a relative amount of time. They're legit. That are going to pay off for All Japan if something like this doesn't happen again. That's just it, is, you know, they had the rookie after Okada. He didn't even do his match, if I'm not mistaken. He like did the training and he just walked out. I mean, he basically took off at the last second and didn't debut. And you know, if I get it, I think his name was Abina, if I'm not mistaken. You have to hope that this isn't something that is going to be a moral demoralizing to the group, you know, to the dojo, because, you know, they've got a lot of young guys right now. They've got their first heavyweight in a while in Ryuki Honda. And so if they keep nurturing that relationship, and he looks good in the matches, he fits in very well. You know, one can only hope that they're going to keep working on developing their rookies and making sure that they feel like they've got the room to grow in All Japan, because I tell you, All Japan cannot afford to lose any more guys. And it's, you know, I go back to the positioning, challenged for the title once or twice, working in the junior division and kind of just floating around as a comedy worker, and then getting attached to Yoshitatsu, which is, I hate to say it, like the kiss of death. And so you have to wonder if Okada just saw that there was like a glass ceiling already where he was, And if that's the case, well, All Japan needs to really reevaluate things, because if somebody like Okada can't grow, then you've got real problems. You know, you've got some real serious lack of depth in the roster already. And, you know, we love the wrestlers that All Japan have, but they definitely need more firepower, and they need to, you know, I hate to say it, but at times they need to just ask more of the talent that they already have, because, I mean, they can do so much more. I look at somebody like Minzore, and yeah, at times, you know, he's really over with that, you know, Black Minzore gimmick, but at other times, I know he's a hell of a worker, and he can do so much more than that. And Izanagi has definitely been showing that he is still a top caliber worker this year, just because he worked the Real World Tag League in very short notice, still looked pretty solid, and did not look out of place in that tournament. You know, he's won the All Asian Tag Belts, making all of his roll-ups and cradles look credible. You have to wonder if All Japan can afford somebody like Alejandro, who they've been using in the Real World Tag League. You know, in the short time he's been working with them, that he would be a good addition. People who have seen him in Wrestle 1 could attest to that. So my hope is that at the beginning of the year, maybe we get 2 signings, maybe 1 heavyweight, 1 junior heavyweight. Wouldn't hold my breath, besides more than maybe, say, a junior heavyweight, because they'd probably work for a bit less money, realistically, for the moment.
Right.
You know, they've got about 6, 7 to 8 credible challengers, which is more than enough. But the junior heavyweights, there's only about 5. And Akita is, you know, probably going to go back to Italy, probably within the next 6 months, I would imagine. And so once he's gone, and once Hayato is gone, that's 2 credible challengers that you could have for the junior heavyweight title that are taken out of the picture. And Okada could have been one. They could have stuck him back in there, but now you've lost 3. So now you're down 3 junior heavyweights, and now you've got to find a way to bridge that, you know, that gap.
And who knows when Dragon Game wrestlers are going to come back to help out, like a little partnership they had for that junior tag with Susumu.
If something has an action has set off a other chain of events, and that has to do with what Matt is talking about, the Dragon Gate possibly having some issues with something that All Japan is getting itself involved in, but kind of hard to say.
We don't know the details, so but I hope it's like nothing serious and something that can actually be fixed in a meeting or something. Because I like their partnership, and most of Dragon Gate is juniors. That could definitely help out the other juniors to hopefully get more junior signed to All Japan.
Absolutely. So why don't we get into the Real World Tag League results? Now, we want to say thanks again to Puro Love and Striga, all the folks involved with Puro Love. They do fantastic work. We are so thankful of them. Cage Match, the same folks, but you know, the folks that work Cage Match, we want to say thank you so much. Check out cagematch.net or purolove.com. So, on the 18th at Shinjuku Face, okay, Gaora TV got this uploaded, as well as All Japan, AJPW.TV, and then we saw the opener with Yusuke Kodama beating Yusuke Okada with a Mad Splash in a little under 5.5 minutes. It's a terrific match. I actually got to see this live. It was a really fun match. I'm really sad that they're not going to be tussling so much. They probably will have a few more matches, but I would say not as frequent, because these I could have watched them develop a real serious rivalry. But anyways, Takao Omori, Black Minzore, and the rookie Ryuki Honda team up to get the win over Atsuki Aoyagi, Akira Francesco, and Rising Hayato, when Omori used the Axe Bomber on Hayato at 8:22. Third match had Hokuto Omori and Koji Doi of Infanterile defeating Hikaru Sato and Dan Tamura of Evolution, when Doi used a padlock hold on Tamura for the win. The fourth match saw Tajiri and Masato Tanaka. They formed their ECW revival reunion team, whatever you want to call them. They weren't a team in ECW, but, you know, ECW revival team, Japan branch, going up against Yoshitatsu and Ryoji Sai, this strange bedfellows tag team. And they get the win over Yoshitatsu and Ryoji Sai do Tajiri and Masato Tanaka when Tanaka used a sliding D in a little under 11 minutes. The fifth match was Jake Lee and Koji Iwamoto of Jin going up against Izanagi and Shigehiro EDA. Now, if you have not heard the news or you did not hear the news, Zeus got COVID, unfortunately, and so he was unable to compete in the tournament without being a health risk, and so Izanagi stepped in place of Zeus, and, good on Izanagi for doing so. Izanagi and EDA take the loss in 12 minutes, 13 seconds when Lee uses the backdrop on Izanagi for the win. In the sixth match, we saw Shotaro Ishino and Kuma Arashi of Infanterible get the win, a revenge win over Suwama and Shuji Ishikawa at 15:48. Ishino and Arashi had just lost the tag team title match back last month, right before the tournament started, against Runaway Giants Suwama and Shuji Ishikawa, and so this is a big win over the tag champs, even though they lost the tag titles. It kind of shows that they're still, they're right there. They're ready to go and take these guys down and get the tag belts. Then the main event saw Daisuke Sekimoto and Abi Kobayashi, Big Japan, go up against Kento Miyahara and Yuma Aoyagi, the Next Stream reunion. Talk about another reunion. Abi and Sekimoto get the win over Next Stream at 18:42 when Kobayashi used his Bakachinga elbow drop on Miyahara, which I'm sure surprised quite a lot of people, myself included, when that happened, just because it was like nobody saw that coming. Usually Sekimoto will go and get the pins when he is the team captain of his team during matches in All Japan. So that was really, really, really strange that happened.
Okay, this was a solid first show. I really liked Enfants and Giants rematch with them getting the revenge win over the Giants. And again, with Kobayashi and Kento, that was a surprise, but this was still a nice match. It was a better introduction of this tag league to get people interested in what's going to happen next because of all these outcomes.
I'm sure projections in booking that wanted to be executed, but Zeus getting COVID definitely threw things out of whack. And I kind of get the feeling that maybe Yoshitatsu was supposed to tag with somebody else, but that didn't wind up happening. And I'm sure because of COVID also, and the lack of being able to have live shows for several months has definitely hit them financially. And so they also have to keep in mind, they're working with X amount of ability to make money on top of having to spend money. So I'm sure at some point you have to consider things and condense. And so, I still think that it got a lot of attention because of the fact that you've got the ECW Revival team, because of the fact that you've got Abdullah Kobayashi showing up the next show, which was at Nagaoka, Aori. And this was on the 21st of November. And I'm going to go over a couple of quick notes, which is Hokuto Omori beat Hiroyuki Suzuki with the Muso Isen at 5 minutes, 5 seconds. This is Suzuki's first appearance in All Japan. Yusuke Kodama and Big the Ryokan, they get the win over Yusuke Okada and a returning Shigeno Shima, okay? Kodama gets the win over Okada with the horizontal cradle at 7 minutes, 40 seconds. And I also want to go ahead and get right to the Real World Tag League matches. Suwama and Shuji Ishikawa, they get their first 2 points over Izanagi and Shigehiro EDA at 11:48 when Ishikawa used the Splash Mountain on Izanagi for the win. The next match saw Sekimoto and Abi Jr. get 2 points with a big win over Infanterible when Sekimoto pinned Arashi with a German suplex at 11 minutes, 6 seconds. And in the main event, Jin's Jake Lee and Koji Iwamoto get the win over Yoshitatsu and Ryoji Sai to get 2 points. on it with the when Jake Lee uses backdrop suplex Yoshitatsu to get the win in the main event. Moving on to the next night, we have Kasukabe Touch Cube. It is November 22nd. These are all on AJPW.TV, if we haven't mentioned. Now, there was a new wrestler that was going to make an appearance in All Japan. He's no stranger to All Japan, but he has, this would be his, let me rephrase that. This is Takayuki Ueki's first appearance in All Japan since his split with Big Japan Pro Wrestling. He has decided to leave Big Japan, and so this was one of his first appearances after leaving Big Japan. He is in a losing effort with Okada, going up against Sato and Tamura of Evolution. Sato uses the Death Valley Bomb on Ueki for the win. We see in Real World Tag League action, we see Sekimoto and Avi Jr. get 2 more points over Tajiri and Masato Tanaka when Kobayashi used the Ganosuke clutch on Tajiri at 9:05. We also saw in Real World Tag League action, Yoshitatsu and Ryoji Sai get their first 2 points over Suwama and Shuji Ishikawa at 17:59 when Yoshitatsu puts out Suwama's lights with the Yoshitatsu Fantasy at 17:59. And in the main event, Shotaro Ashino and Kuma Arashi get 2 points over Kento and Yuma at 17:09 when Arashi used the diving senton on Aoyagi for the win.
Okay. I really loved the main event. I thought it was a great match. I really wish Koji Doi was Shitaro's partner for this match, to have Shitaro and Koji against Kento and Yuma, since Yuma and Koji had that encounter about 2 months ago. I think that would have been perfect just to have that there. And Yoshi beating Suwama again and still cannot get a title match because he is a thorn on Suwama's side and still gets nothing out of it. That, as much as you don't like Yoshi, that is still a shame.
Yeah, I think you hit that right that nail on the head. Is Tatsu remains a thorn in Suwama's side, even though Suwama wouldn't entertain the idea of a Triple Crown title match. But Tatsu definitely proving that he still has what it takes to win in the main event. That's a win over Kento, and that's a win over Suwama in both tournaments, right? Because in the Champions Carnival, Tatsu put him out. Yeah, he put him out. Real World Tag League, he beats the Triple Crown champion, the 5 Crown King, in Real World Tag League. So, that's kind of a big deal for Yoshitatsu. The next date is the 23rd. They are back at Kurikan Hall. We saw the very first appearance of Alejandro in All Japan since the Wrestle 1 dissolving earlier this year. He teams up with Udamaro to beat Atsuki Aoyagi, and as well as I'm going to do that one more time. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The next date is the 23rd at Kurikan Hall. Now, this is Alejandro's first appearance in All Japan since the Wrestle 1 dissolving earlier this year. Since Wrestle 1 dissolved earlier this year, he teams up with Udamaro in a winning effort against Atsuki Aoyagi and Francesco Akita when Udamaro uses a triangle choke on Akita for the win. In Real World Tag League action, we saw Shotaro Ashino and Kuma Arashi beat Izanagi and Shigehiro EDA when Ashino used the ankle lock on Izanagi at 11:17. Also in Real World Tag League action, we saw Suwama and Shuji Ishikawa get 2 points over Jin's Jake Lee and Koji Iwamoto when Suwama used the last ride on Iwamoto at 21:30. And in the main event, Kento and Yuma Aoyagi beat Team ECW with the when Aoyagi used the end game on Tajiri at 13:59, just a hair shy of 14 minutes.
I love the Giants and Jake and Koji. That was another great match. Again, very nice match. With Team ECW, I'm not sure how I feel overall. Like, I get it's the ECW gimmick, but at the same time, does it feel like a little flat to you, per se?
In my view, it's been about 20 years, right, since they were a part of it. And so I suppose because it's like the 20th anniversary for them, essentially, I think Tajiri was in there till 2001, but let's say it's close enough to 2021 to be like the 20th anniversary of like ECW kind of shutting down. I kind of get it. It's the statute of limitations, but I don't want to see this team next year. I don't want to see this team next year. You know, this works for this year, but not for next year. So I was actually okay with it, especially since Masato Tanaka hasn't been in a real world tag league in quite some time. And I love Masato Tanaka. He's definitely proven that he can still go. You know, he's done that multiple times in different promotions.
I enjoyed this show. I enjoyed Giants and Jin.
The next night of the Real World Tag League, which is the 29th, November 29th at Yamada Green Dome Maebashi, we saw, I'm trying to look at, we saw Ueki and Okada again in tag team action go up against Udamaro and Alejandro this time. And these, again, are two wrestlers from two different promotions, formerly of two different promotions, Ueki and Alejandro, working together in a tag match in All Japan. And Okada and Ueki get the win when Ueki uses the Death Valley Bomb on Alejandro for the win at 8:48. And we also see the return of Revlon, who is a Land's End wrestler, who I really enjoy his work. He and Yotaka Yoshie, who was also returning to All Japan after being away for a little while. I mean, he's not a regular, but he kind of just shows up here and there. He's a freelance wrestler. And Takao Mori, they lose to Suwama, Shuji Ishikawa, and Dan Tamura when Ishikawa uses the Fire Thunder on Revlon at 12:42. In Real World Tag League action, Team ECW, Tajiri and Masato Tanaka get the win over Jake Lee and Koji Iwamoto when Tanaka uses the sliding D on Awamoto at 9:17. Also in Real World Tag League action, Izanagi and Shigehiro EDA, they get their first 2 points of the tournament with a win over Sekimoto and Abdullah Kobayashi of BJW when Izanagi uses the Seminole inside cradle on Kobayashi for the win. And in the main event, we saw Kento and Yuma Aoyagi get 2 points with a win over the Strange Bedfellows team of Yoshitatsu and Ryoji Sai at 22:56 when Kento used the shutdown German suplex on Yoshitatsu.
I think this was the only one I did not watch. I know I was doing something over that time that I just could not get a chance to watch it. So yeah, I think this was the only one that I had missed. What did you think?
I really thought Yuma and Kento in a match with Ryoji Sai and Yoshitatsu would have been a lot worse. So I have to say that the main event was actually a lot better than what I pictured it in my head. Having said that, Sekimoto and Abby against Purple Haze, it's a fun match. It's not exactly a great match, but I would check it out for the most part, you know, because it's only like 10 and a half minutes, so that's worth watching. I get what you mean by it's flat with Team ECW because it's kind of like a one-trick pony. They use the Singapore canes and put people through tables, and you know, yeah, it works because it's a 20th anniversary kind of deal. But I think your point proves strongest here because I kind of felt like Tajiri and Tanaka definitely could have took Jin to a faster paced, a funner match overall, and you know, I don't know if I'd call this a fun match.
Comedic thing, especially with Masato coming back, or like, when was the last time he was in All Japan?
It's been a while.
Yeah, you figure like make a good impression, maybe get a title match here with Tag, or maybe pin Sawaba in the events to hype up the new year. Like something. Like you figure you got Masato back, you figure you have a stronger return than this.
The last 3 nights of the Real World Tag League and Nagoya International Conference Hall on the 4th of December, A special six-man tag that was on this show was Takao Mori, Black Menzore, and Konaka, the Pale One. They team up to go up and get a win over Yusuke Okada, Ishikiri, the returning Ishikiri, and Sodai Maniji of Land's End. When Omori used the Axe Bomber on Okada at 8:06. Now, the Pale One, Konaka, he got a chance to wrestle with Kento earlier this year, and he's kind of just shown up a couple of times here and there in all Japan, not too distant past, and so it was kind of fun seeing him around. He's a very interesting, strange character, but definitely he's not somebody I would say is boring. We also got to see Hokuto Omori and Yusuke Kodama of Infanterible get a win over Udamaro and Alejandro, who again is taking the place of Izanagi, who would have been Udamaro's tag partner during these matches. Kodama gets the win over Alejandro at 7:01 with the Mad Splash. In Real World Tag League action, we saw Yoshitatsu and Ryoji Sai get the win over Izanagi and Shigehiro EDA at 9:52 when Yoshitatsu used the Yoshitatsu Fanatic on Izanagi for the win. Tajiri, Masato Tanaka, Team ECW get 2 points over Ashino and Kumarashi of Infanterible at 6 minutes 48 seconds. Tanaka used the sliding D on Arashi for the win. Jake Lee and Koji Awamoto of Jin get 2 points over Daisuke Sekimoto and Abdullah Kobayashi of BJW when Iwamoto used a ground Cobra Twist on Kobayashi at 11:39 for their 2 points. The main event for the evening is Kento and Yuma getting 2 points over Suwama and Shuji Ishikawa when Kento pinned Shuji with the shutdown German suplex at 24:17. And a lot of big matches on that one. I would definitely say there was some things to definitely take into note. Matt, you wanna you gotta go over that?
This was a strong show. With six-man tag was special, as you said. What you call it? I love Alejandro. I loved him in Wrestle 1. I hope he signs with All Japan. He could definitely make a bigger impression. Main event was great. You can't go wrong with either of them. And Kento getting the pin, but not to Suwama. So again, the only one that beat Suwama is Yoshi. Out of everyone. But this is still a great match. I love this match. And definitely one of the better days overall, tournament-wise.
Yeah, I would be inclined to agree. I think this was a fun show up and down. I would definitely say that Alejandro, as I said in his short time filling in the gap for Izanagi, has shown me, All Japan needs to grab this guy. If anybody there's to sign to a contract, there's no downside to this guy. You just sign him for a year or two, and I bet you more than likely he's probably going to come away with some really good stuff, really good matches. Could potentially be a contender to the junior heavyweight title. We are at the last two nights of the Real World Tag League, so let's punch through, and then we can get over to our talk with Fumi Saito about the All Japan Noah split of 2000. So let's get over this. The 5th of December at Mandajima Multipurpose Square saw the following matches from the Real World Tag League. First off, Francesco Akita gets a win over Alejandro with Meteora at 7:04. Again, Alejandro making a really good impression, stepping in at the last minute for Izanagi, and so he's just proving himself to be quite a easy fit into the junior division for All Japan. In Real World Tag League action, we saw Kento and Yuma get 2 points over Izanagi and Shigehiro EDA when Aoyagi used the endgame on Izanagi at 13 minutes. The next match was a Real World Tag League match. Daisuke Sekimoto and Abdullah Kobayashi of BJW. They get 2 points over Yoshitatsu and Ryoji Sai when Kobayashi used his Bakachinga elbow drop on Yoshitatsu at 13:09 for the win. Suwama, Shuji Ishikawa get 2 points over Team ECW when Tajiri got trapped and put in a chin lock by Ishikawa for the tap out at 7:55. And in the main event, Jake Lee and Koji Iwamoto of Jin get 2 points over Shotaro Ashino and Kuma Arashi when Jake Lee used the backdrop suplex on Arashi at 16:19. And so your standings at the end of regular play before we hit the final is we have Kento, Yuma, they are at the top with Jake Lee and Koji Iwamoto at 8 points, and Daisuke Sekimoto and Abi Jr. right underneath them also at 8 points. Shotaro Ashino, Kumarashi at 6 points. Tajiri, Masato Tanaka at 6 points. Suwama and Shuji Ishikawa, the Runaway Giants and defending World Tag Team / Double Cup Tag Team Champions at 6 points. Yoshitatsu and Ryoji Sai at 4 points, and Izanagi and Shigehiro EDA at 2 points. And so your main event, your Real World Tag League final, Kento Miyahara and Yuma Aoyagi going up against Jin's Jake Lee, Koji Iwamoto. Final night of the Real World Tag League is at Kurikan Hall, December 7th. We're going to go through the whole card. Takao Mori and Black Menzore team up with Atsuki Aoyagi in a fun match going up against Yusuke Okada, Chikara, and Takayuki Ueki. Also, like as we mentioned, formerly of BJW, when Omori gets the win with the Axe Bomber on Okada at 8:23. And, of course, Chikara is a Momota family member. He is a member of the Yoshitatsu Kingdom stable. Hokuto Omori, Koji Doi, and Yusuke Kodama of Infanterible, they get a win over Masanobu Fuchi, a returning Mitsuya Nagai, and Ryuki Honda when Omori used a lariat on Honda at 7:52. Hikaru Sato, Dan Tamura, and Osamu Nishimura get the win over Ryuji Hijikata, Francesco Akira, and Rising Hayato when Sato used a capture-style cross-arm breaker on Hayato at 8:54 for the win. Masato Tanaka and Tajiri get 2 points over Izanagi and Shigehiro EDA when Tanaka used the sliding D on Izanagi. And this, when he laid into Izanagi with that one, that probably was the one that looked the most painful in the whole tournament. Yoshitatsu and Ryoji Sai get the win over Infanterible. Surprisingly, when Yoshitatsu used the Yoshitatsu Fanatic on Arashi to put his lights out at 11:02 for 2 points. Suwama and Shuji Ishikawa get 2 points over Team BJW when Suwama uses the Manriki Sleeper at 14:27 on Kobayashi for the win. And in the main event, Kento and Yuma Aoyagi get the win over Jake Lee and Koji Iwamoto at 28:34 when Aoyagi used the endgame at Lee. And I got to tell you, the entire show I watched live, and I thought it was fantastic. And I got to say, the main event, that tag match is something special. It really is, and I'm really glad that they're looking to push Yuma into the upper echelon of the heavyweight division. It's been a long time coming, and I was more than glad to see Yuma finally get that big win to kind of cement his place and the main event spot. You know, he seems like he's a credible threat in the main events. So that was, that made me really happy. And yeah, congrats to the winners of the Real World Tag League 2020, Kento and Yuma next stream. But, I still wonder about Yuma and, if he's really playing games with Kento. He's making nice right now. It's very interesting. We'll see what happens next.
But yeah, great final. This is probably one of my favorite tag matches. It was probably one of my favorite tag matches for the year. Yuma winning surprised me, but it was very much needed because he really needed to show he is that main eventer. So, but yeah, he needed this. Him teaming with Kento. We'll see how it goes. I'm glad to see that my pick actually won the tournament, as I picked them as my prediction. So I'm happy with that result.
That's right. You did pick them, didn't you?
I sure did.
And had it, and you, I mean, like, were you like just when you saw the match, were you just like, you know, jumping up and down and just like going nuts because you're like, that was my pick.
I'm like, I picked it, God damn it! That's exactly what happened.
I would have to say that now you have to wonder about the landscape of the title picture scene for both the World Tag Team belts as well as the Triple Crown titles, but we actually got some answers involving that actually not more than 48 hours after the event on the 7th. But in addition to the 7th, there was also some big news that came out about All Japan, and I mean, Matt, you wanna tell them about that?
Talk about Amazon Prime?
Yes, sir.
All right, yeah, All Japan will be partnering up with Amazon Prime to have some shows exclusively to the Japanese version of Amazon Prime. That is big news. Despite how you feel about Amazon as a company, they are still big money, which they desperately need.
Seems as though they have like exclusive shows, and you'd be able to rent them or purchase them through Amazon Japan, Amazon Prime Japan. Now, if you want to try to get in on this and you're not in Japan, you're more than likely going to have to get a VPN and sign up for a Amazon Japan account as well. But if you do that, let us know how easy it is, or if it wasn't easy to set up, because I would definitely be interested. Once you hear this card, you will be like, okay, I can see what the big deal is. Jake Lee, Koji Iwamoto, and Ryoki Honda, they are going to take on an all-star team lineup of Masaki Mochizuki of Dragon's Gate, Shinya Aoki, who is I think he's a freelancer at this point right now, and Hideki Suzuki, who has not been in All Japan in about 6 years. And so that was some pretty big news. I was really shocked about that. Suwama, Shuji Ishikawa, the defending World Tag Team / Double Cup Tag Team Champions, Runaway Giants, they will go up against a former All Japan wrestler in Akira Raijin and Violence Leather. Interesting name. And we got a special match with Kento Miyahara teaming up with somebody who was trained in the All Japan dojo like 40 years ago, Shiro Koshinaka. They will team up with another wrestler who is no stranger to All Japan in Akira, formerly of Wrestle One. They will go up against the White 1-2-3 with Kenzo, former All Japan wrestler Kenzo, and his wife Hiroko. Press conference on the 7th before the All Japan show, and there were pictures of this floating around, and so people were trying to piece together exactly what was going on, and come to find out that, I mean, I saw the pictures with Kento and Hideki Suzuki and Shinya Aoki and Masaki Mochizuki, and was like, oh man, I wonder what's going on with this. And the announcement came out about Amazon Prime Japan having this exclusive All Japan show, and I hope it leads to good things for All Japan, a good relationship with them, and I hope that we can be able to check this out, or at the very least they'll be able to upload this to AJPW.TV sometime down the road. And so also the title matches, Matt, I mean, my goodness, we've got big title matches coming up in the beginning of January.
There's actually an update on the tag title match. If the Giants lose the tag titles, they will split up. That is it for them. Like, no more Shuji and Suwama as a tag team if they lose.
That's putting some real skin in the game. That's to say that they're gonna stake their career as a tag team on the line up against an Extreme. That's extreme for not a team that is Nextreme. But yes, that's going to be on January 2nd.
You did call that they would probably split up after 2020. Like, this will be the last run with the Tokyo Sports Awards. But because of the stipulation now...
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. I mean, I could see that. but I could also see Yuma betraying Kento, and Runaway Giants manage to stick around, you know, at least for another few more months, you know, because I don't think this thing with Yuma and Kento and that bad blood between them, I don't think it's over with. I think that Yuma is he's taking Kento for a ride. A couple of years back, okay, Suwama was trying to entice Kento to join in Evolution, and it seemed like it was going to happen,
Right.
except that they won the Real World Tag League only for Kento to basically turn away from Suwama and be like, psych, I'm not gonna join, psych. You know, he I think he joined either Exceed or that's when Extreme got started. I'm a little fuzzy on that at the moment, but I could definitely see shades of that. You know, Kento was the player then, and now Kento is getting played by Yuma. I could see it happening because, you know, you're going to wait for the perfect moment to screw over Kento, and what better moment than, you know, right when Kento is about to hit the shutdown, you know, German suplex on Ishikawa again, and then all of a sudden Yuma just runs in with the thrust kick, and everybody's like, what the hell, and Yuma just gets out of there, and the next day...
Got a Triple Crown Championship match against Suwama for the day after. Again, I figure Yoshi still could have got it because he's the only one in the tag league that beat Suwama. And if it's leading to Yuma betraying Kento, then it makes sense. But if not, shouldn't the person that beat the champion get the championship match? Because it happened with Kai and then Jake back-to-back with Kento when he was champion. But now with this, it's not happening. So part of me says, I don't get it. I guess I just hate Yoshi. That's the case. He shouldn't have beat Suwama in the tag league. And I think Yuma probably should have got that victory. This was going to be the case.
I think you got a strong point there. Normally, traditionally, you see somebody get the win over the Triple Crown champion in the Real World Tag League. They come and they challenge for the belt in January or sometime around then. And I think maybe they just wanted to break with tradition. Besides, Yuma was the one who got the win for his team in the Real World Tag League, the last match with Jake Lee and Koji Iwamoto. And so in my view, it's like it's Yuma getting rewarded for the win. He got the win, right? He got the win, and Kento, you know, could have been like, well, you know, yeah, I want the title shot, but obviously, you know, they're not trying to go down that road right now. They're keeping they're keeping, I would say they're keeping the belt away from Kento is wise, very, very wise right now. They don't need to give him any belts, which also is the thing that leads me to believe that they're not going to win the tag belts, because I dig Kento not having any titles but still showing that he's a dominant wrestler, right? You need that, you know. He doesn't need the titles, okay? This is the time to elevate others. It really is, and Yuma could be that one that is going to be elevated, and you're putting him in a position to say, okay, well, guess what? The Yuma Kento feud, that could go out through the entire next year. I could see it. I really could, because they could battle it out in the Real World Tag League, in the Carnival. Yuma has the ability to really be the next asshole heel in all Japan. And he's a credible heavyweight. He's groomed by Akiyama. He's got a great skill set. He's a very adept as a wrestler. And I think if you're smart, you got to go and say, okay, 2021, you put everything on Yuma, because he's already a crowd favorite. They already like him. Now let's see how they'll like him as an asshole heel, right? And you have him and Kento at the other, you know, at odds with each other. And Kento, you know, is going to need a new tag partner because Yuma's not going to tag with him anymore. And Yuma's going to need a new tag partner. And so the thing is these are questions that they can answer down the road. Like, I wouldn't mind, you know, DOG Sai working with Yuma right? I would not mind that because Ryuji Sai is a pretty utility guy. But who would Kento team up with? That's the crazy thing. That's who you gotta think about. Who could he team up with, right? He's on his own, right? And so you gotta wonder, okay, can you make Yuma versus Kento the feud of 2021, like the attraction of All Japan? And I think you could. But it'll be interesting to see if the Triple Crown is involved in that, right? Because there's no saying that if Kento and Yuma lose the tag title match, Yuma can't lose the Triple Crown title match. It just means that the rivalry starts like right there in that tag title match, because Kento could come out and cost Yuma the belt. It's really hard to say.
Oh yeah, if this is going to be the outcome, like rivalry rise, then yeah, Yuma getting in the match makes sense. But I just hope it is that and not just a one-off, be in that match, lose, and then not touch it again or do anything till God knows when. But yeah, if they want to start Kento and Yuma, then yeah, doing it on January 2nd could be the start, and you could probably drag this out for a good 8 to 10 months if you do it right, instead of just doing it right away. You could definitely plan this out for a good 80% of this year. But again, they have to be smart about this, and if they do it right, it's going to be big. It's going to be one of the biggest feuds next to when Kento with Jake. They'll be talking about Yuma more than Jake.
Yeah, I could see that. I could totally see that. I think that you got a lot. You have a lot of potential with young heavyweights, which is a good thing, right? There's a youth movement in All Japan right now. I mean, you got Suwama. He is the top dog, right? But the thing is things are shifting. He's the last of his guard, the last of his. He's the last of the old. Yeah, the old Muto era, right? He's the last bastion. So after that, it's like you've got a lot of youth, and it seems like they're moving in a different direction than Noah, who seems to be putting a lot of faith into building up Muto versus Shiozaki. And I'm not going to say anything more than that, but you have to wonder if it's going to if that's going to be the feud of 2021 is Yuma versus Kento, because right now it doesn't seem like it. But a good swerve is something that a lot of wrestling fans would appreciate from all around the globe. So last two pieces of news is that Naoya Ogawa, okay, who is a very controversial figure in MMA and pro wrestling in general, the pupil of Antonio Inoki, the guy behind the guy that was NWA World Champion, and he has just done this, that, and the other. Hustle. He shows up at the press conference for the All Japan Amazon Japan video press conference, and it's announced that Ogawa is going to do commentary for that show, and Suwama gets into his face, and they kind of have a bit of a standoff. And at the show, Ogawa shows up, and he's going to do commentary, a little bit of commentary there. And if I might be mistaken, he might not have done commentary at that show, but he definitely came out and attacked Kenzo Suzuki when Kenzo Suzuki came out and made the announcement about the All Japan getting on Amazon Japan Video with his wife, who is strangely dressed, and Kenzo came out in his old ring gear and got hit with an STO by Naoya Ogawa. Ogawa came to the ring and said his piece and left, and it'll be interesting to see where this goes with Naoya Ogawa in the future. He's definitely somebody who's got a legit background in judo. He's probably one of the finest judokas Japan has ever produced. And so there's that to think about. And, All Japan has had relationships with judo wrestlers. Koji Yamamoto is one, and he's the current World Junior Heavyweight Champion. And finally, we want to go and give you the lineup for Prime Night, okay, which is the the next show coming up, which is on the 13th, which we should hopefully be uploading this on the 13th or maybe the 12th. We'll find out. But they'll give you the rundown of the card. Tajiri and Francesco Akira, the student and mentor, are going to mix it up in the opener. Masanobu Fushi, Koji Awamoto, and Ryuki Honda, they're going to go up against Purple Hazes, Zeus, and Izanagi and Utamaro. Suwama, Shuji Ishikawa, and Hikaru Sato of Evolution, they will go up against Kento, Yuma, and a very special guest, a very controversial figure himself in the last few years, if I may say so, Sema, the leader of OEW, the leader of Strong Hearts. He makes his first appearance in All Japan for some time, and it is going to be a fantastic match. You got a killer lineup there. Yoshitatsu Yusuke Okada in his final match in All Japan as a full-time wrestler, and Chikara of Yoshitatsu Kingdom, they will go up against Jun Kasai, Masashi Takeda, and Kenji Fukimoto of Freedoms. Now, Takeda is no stranger to All Japan, as he has tagged with the former Izanagi Atsushi Maruyama. They are friends, and they have won the Junior Tag Battle of Glory not too long ago, and I'm a really big fan of Takeda, so I'm really happy to have him back. I'm a big fan of Jun Kasai as well.
He's one of the biggest deathmatch stars in Japan right now, so yeah, people are going to want to see him. That's going to have to go on, want people to buy a ticket.
Yeah, most definitely, and Kasai had been threatening to make the match like a death match style of wrestling, and All Japan is not really, it's not a death match promotion. It doesn't have death matches. It's had some violent stuff, sure, but not a death match based promotion. And so Kasai, being a troublemaker that he likes to be, he threatened to at first have a death match style of match, and eventually he got backed off of that and said that he would prepare a death match style to wrestle a regular style match. And so that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. We are going to see...
Did Casey Yoshi do a death match? Yoshitatsu do a death match?
I could.
Really?
Well, I mean, he's...
Yeah, but DC going well.
No, definitely not going well. But I do see him... I would see him trying it, at least,
For the Hawaiian Intercontinental Championship.
For the chicken nugget, Hawaiian chicken nugget eating title. Yes, that's what I call it.
Yes. Oh, yes. That book it match of the year right there.
-5 stars. And we will see the first All Japan the first AJPW.TV 6-man tag team title. We will see the first champions crowned in the decision match between Takawa Mori, Black Menzode, and Carvel Ito. They go up against Dyoji Sai, Revlon, and Daimonji So of Land's End. That should be a pretty fun match. Love that trio of Land's End wrestlers. Omori always brings it. Black Menzode has been his second banana, has been fun at times, and Carvel Ito, he is fun to watch as well. We have Dan's Great Adventure, Dan Tamura of Evolution. He is going to get a crash course in submission wrestling and being tossed around by Shotaro Ashino. We will see Jake Lee in a Plus Ultra match. Jake Lee goes up against Atsuki Aoyagi. And in the final, we have Hokuto Omori of Infanterible going up against Kyohei Sato. Sato has competed in All Japan in the past. He's no stranger, but this will be the first time away from his former home of 0-1, which he left not too long ago. This will be his first appearance for All Japan since leaving, and folks are wondering if Sato will be somebody who could be you could project him into the 2021 forecast for All Japan, because he's a freelancer and he's done a lot. He's won numerous titles. He's been a top title. He's been a main event guy for a couple of different promotions, And so folks are wondering if he's going to enter the Champions Carnival, if he's going to be a Triple Crown contender. You know, it would be nice to have him around because he is he's a very good heavyweight for what you kind of expect out of him. He's just a big guy. He can beat you up. He's very good at throwing you around. He is formerly a tag partner of Shuji Ishikawa in the Twin Towers. They were BJW Tag Team Champions. They're actually going to challenge Astronauts, which are Nomura and Abe, BJW Tag Team Champions. That's going to be a pretty fun match to watch as well.
Oh, yeah. Zeus got tested a couple of times. One was positive, and recently he is COVID-free. He is negative. He's clear to be wrestling. We don't know when his next match is, but fantastic news that he is COVID-free and ready to return to the ring.
Yes, that's right. A few days before the final night of the Real World Tag League, the card went out for it. It was announced that Zeus was not he did not have COVID. He had negative tests in back-to-back succession, and so he was relieved. We were relieved. Everybody was relieved, I'm sure. And so, as Matt mentioned, we're not 100% sure when Zeus will be back, but we're just happy to hear that he is COVID-free. Yeah, that does it up for the events and news in December. We managed to get through it. Let's take a quick break, and then we're going to head over to our other segments as well, the talk with Fumi Saito and part 2 of our interview with Taiyo Kea. This is Matt and Dave. Matt and myself had the great opportunity of talking with the wonderful Fumi Saito, who has been covering Japanese pro wrestling for a couple of decades now. And so he is, if I'm not mistaken, he is somebody that is on a Pacific Rim podcast. He does other little appearances in other podcasts. He's just somebody who is a great mind for pro wrestling and loves talking wrestling, as wrestling historian. And so we want to get you over to that interview right away. And when we come back from that, we will close it up with part 2 of our interview with Taiyo Kea. And then we will be getting out of here. So let's get to that right away. Matt?
So let's get to it.
Hey guys, how's it going? This is Dave the Drummer here with my good buddy Matt Sopraikon. We are here. We are the hosts of SUWAMA'S Station, the official podcast of All Japan Worldwide Fan Group. We want to thank you all for joining us here. We have a very special interview that I'm super delighted to bring to you along with Matt. Fumi Saito, who is a very respected Japanese reporter for pro wrestling over the last 20 plus years. He's here with us today, and we're here to talk about probably one of the biggest news events, if not the biggest news event in wrestling, in Japanese pro wrestling in 20 years, the Noah All Japan split. So this is, we're still on 2020. We're in December of 2020 as we're taping right now, but we wanted to make sure that we got this story out to the folks that are not very familiar with the story of All Japan and New Japan splitting up. And I figured, who else would be really good at being able to kind of talk about that and give some great details at length, and somebody who was there in real time, seeing it as it, all kind of goes down. I asked a friend of mine, Fumi Saito, to come on the show. And Fumi, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah. Awesome. Yes. So Fumi, for the fans that are not familiar with your name, there are some folks that are familiar with different publications and online social media presences and different podcasts that you've worked with over time. But could you tell us, our fans, a little bit about yourself?
Myself? Okay. Oh, I've been a wrestling reporter, and I've been writing wrestling since 1981.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And weekly pro wrestling. Yeah. And my own column, it's called Boys Will Be Boys. And I also done a lot of interviews with all the superstars, from Carl Gotch, Luthas to the Funks, Brody, Stan Hansen, Nick Bockwinkel, Road Warriors, Bret Hart, you name it.
Yes.
Well, great honor to have you here.
Yes.
So.
And also, I've always, followed everything pretty much. And I've been watching wrestling since I was 3 years old. So.
Just like the rest of us. At least me, I can say that.
Yeah. And so we got a lot to share.
Let's go ahead and get right to it. We know for a fact that the split itself happens in 2000, early summer of 2000. Now, we know it happens in 2000, the split, but I'm sure there are things
where
happening.
It began.
Yes, where did it begin?
It will not give you like really simple one answer thing. It's All Japan Pro Wrestling was founded by Giant Baba, started 1972, okay? And it was the biggest traditional, Japanese wrestling, but Giant Baba was a promoter and wrestler, and the kind of promoter, like a very old-fashioned NWA style, National Wrestling Alliance era. And Baba was a promoter that brings in all the biggest name from America, the Funks, the Hardy Race, pretty much everybody, okay? And there were always two big companies in Japan. Antonio Inoki's New Japan Pro Wrestling and Giant Baba's All Japan Pro Wrestling.
Right.
And FMW, that UWF, shoot style, all these things came after, okay? And FMW's Onita School of Wrestling, it came from Giant Baba's School of Wrestling, okay? Yeah, because Onita, started his career when he was 15 years of age, washing Baba's back, carrying Baba's suitcase, And also all the UWF style, shoot style, came out of Antonio Inoki New Japan Pro Wrestling School. Inoki's a wrestler who had a famous Muhammad Ali fight back in 1976. You know that one, do you?
Mm-hmm.
And Baba's philosophy and Inoki's philosophy, two different schools of wrestling. Giant Baba, traditional pro wrestling. And Inoki wanted people to think his stuff is real. You know what I'm saying? Therefore, he had all these, so not quite MMA, but he was doing something like this when there was no term MMA. And
or just shoot, basically.
And also Korogach School of Wrestling, the most legitimate, the closest thing to legitimate fight. The group of wrestlers like Maeda, Takada, the Funaki, Minoru Suzuki, all these guys came out of Inoki Wrestling School and debuted in New Japan, but carried on Inoki philosophy to make wrestling real or more real. Then therefore UWF, the rings, the pancreas, all these things came out of it. That's the very basic history of it. And Baba died in January of 1999. Okay.
Right.
Actually, that was the time that eventually that the company was split into 2 groups or 3 groups. Giant Baba's All Japan Pro Wrestling was more of a mama and papa company. Mr. and Mrs. Baba ran it. Are you following it?
Yes.
Very old-fashioned, like your Central State, Kansas City, or NWA Florida, or Mr. and Mrs. Vern Gagne, AWA. When wrestling was run by wrestling promoter, wrestler, and booker, and more of a family operation business, just gotten bigger,
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Antonio Inoki's New Japan Pro Wrestling, it was more of a company, similar to McMahon, style. Yeah.
Right.
Anyhow, Giant Baba died when he was 61 years old, January of 1999. Okay. And who was going to be the boss? That's a big question, right?
Right.
Yeah. And, well, of course, Mrs. Baba was going to run it, and which she did. And naturally, Jumbo Tsuruta should be the next president, right? But
right.
he was also sick, and he was in and out of the ring, and also you know, his he wanted to. He was a type that Jumbo is from 1972 Munich Olympic, very amateur type of person, and also he was more on his own thing, and he did not really inherit the All Japan Pro Wrestling Company, and he went back to school and became professor. Yeah. Then Jumbo also dies in the following year, 2000, at the age of 47. That changed a lot of things. But there was a struggle among wrestlers. The King, Giant Baba, right? King died. And group of wrestlers, I hate to say this, but the group of wrestlers, a lot of them, secretly hated the Queen all along.
Right.
Yeah, it's a kingdom, King died, the wrestling remains. All the members, the Misawa, Kobashi, Kawada, Taue, all the other guys, or even Americans, Stan Hansen and his guys, they're all still working, right? Yeah. Who is going to be the boss? You will need boss. This time it's different because Giant Baba was the boss, president, and the booker in the dressing room. The real boss.
Mm-hmm.
In wrestling, you have creative end of it and the business end of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Giant Baba was all in one, but now he's gone. Who's gonna take over the dressing room? Who's gonna be the president of the company? Who's gonna do this and do that? And there was no one boss anymore.
Yeah, we're learning so much as you talk.
You guys are a little bit younger than I am, so I'm just trying to make you like easily understand the whole layout of it,
Yeah.
Yeah, but you would think Jumbo Tsuruya would be the guy, right?
Absolutely.
But he did not want to do it, and he went back to school and got his master, and he became professor for real,
Yeah.
And so he didn't really continue his professional wrestling saga. He went with his life, which is good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mrs. Baba wanted Mitsuo Momota to be the president, and Jumbo wanted Misawa as a president and the booker.
Right.
The philosophy is the boss and the booker in the dressing room, as a dressing room leader and an ace quarterback should be the same person. That's Jumbo. Mrs. Baba thought the company president should be somebody older, therefore Mitsuo Momota. But Jumbo asked Mrs. Baba, right before he left the company, make Misawa the president. And therefore, Misawa became the president of All Japan Pro Wrestling after Baba died.
Right.
But then it's Mrs. Baba against Misawa then. I mean, how this power struggle thing goes?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because nobody really choose, Mr. Momota as president. It was Mrs. Baba, Motoko Baba's idea, Somebody veteran should be running, company or something. But the wrestler's mentality, well, probably today is too, that your ace quarterback, dressing room leader is your boss. They're athletes.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, wrestling, you say a lot of things about professional wrestling, actors, character, and or the drama and the soap opera. But at the end of the day, they are all athletes. They think like athletes. Yeah. Therefore, Misawa, became the leader. He was what? He was before 40 years of age, 30-something still. But everybody's choosing, yes, Misawa naturally was the leader of the pack.
Right.
But the money, whose money is this? This is Mrs. Baba's.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this was going to happen, When King was alive, a lot of wrestlers secretly hated the Queen. But it was okay because Baba was there, Jumbo was there, Misawa and all his guys were there, Stan Hansen, Johnny Ace, everybody was there. It's a great package, that the great roster of talent running 6-7 Budokan shows a year,
Every single
150 shows a year, and just 9, 10 long tours a year on national television, network television and TV, Channel 4. Healthy, right? Yeah. And so it was naturally coming down to Mrs. Baba against Mitsuharu Misawa. Not childish fight, but mature business decision making. Part of me believed that after Giant Baba died, Mrs. Baba didn't really have this much of wasn't so enthused. How's that?
Like had no desire.
Right, because she was never a wrestling fan. It was just kind of like a very romantic story that Mrs. Baba, Motoko Baba, was 17 when he met 19-year-old Giant Baba when he was pitching for Giants, baseball player.
Right.
Yeah, Baba was 19, Motoko was 17. They were together next 50 years. You know what I'm saying? It was their life, And when Baba died, I don't think she really wanted to continue with this wrestling company thing, But didn't know when to quit.
It mostly did because her husband loved it.
Yeah, but he's not there though anymore,
Right.
And the Mr. and Mrs. Baba didn't have a child, So all the boys were like their children. Would Misawa and all his crew listen to Mrs. Baba like when Baba was around? It was gonna be a confrontation sooner or later because Mrs. Baba is not wrestler.
What would you think was like the last straw that made Misawa decide that he was gonna leave? That came up.
I don't think there was more than just one. One of the reasons probably was that Misawa got blessing from Channel 4. If you go independent and have another company, the television, network television, and TV will go with you. There was a blessing.
I never stopped to think about that, but that makes 100% that jives with everything, because if you've got the TV network at your side, if they got your back, then that ultimately means you can make the call to do what you want to do rather than we have to wait for somebody to give us the approval to make that jump. So it's like as soon as they found out, it's like, hey, we're good and clear. We can make this thing happen. I've never thought about that before.
Yeah, we are again. We're learning so much.
The funny thing is, though, initial idea, his plan was to just take 2 or 3 guys and start small company and start from scratch. Right. Just 3 or 4 guys on his own, and then build a company from the scratch, like Giant Baba did 30 years back. Then when the word got around, every single wrestlers, but Kawada and Fuchi, ring announcer, ring crew, the truck driver, the concession guys, production guys, every single one of them wanted to come with Misawa. See, when you have the company split like this, big company, it's, if not 50-50, it's like a 40-60 or 30-70. You know what I'm saying? This time, see, Misawa wasn't even planning on it. He was going to take 3 or 4 his guys like Ogawa or Kobashi or a couple other guys and start from very small and try to build a company,
right?
New company. But when word got around that I want to come, I'm joining you. It's all of a sudden it's like 99-1
from everyone.
Ace quarterback. Yep.
It makes sense to me why then they were based out of Differ Ariake, right? Because then that's why, because there would have been a small promotion, even smaller than Noah, if it had just been the 3 or 4 or 5 guys that Misawa initially envisioned. Because Differ Ariake is not a very big venue, especially if you have a roster that size. So that actually that lines up pretty good. Wow.
Yeah, does it make sense? And also,
yeah, it does.
Differ Ariake was new building then. It's no longer, but the Differ Ariake just got opened as a new venue, and also Noah had office there in that building. It was a landlord, just let him, use the building as an office too. So they had Noah's very first office was in that building. It was good building, like 2,000 people, and but it's in the way out in Tokyo Bay area. It's not very good place, It's not Korakuen Hall by any means.
Right.
In the middle of, yeah.
And now it's a car lot, right? It's a car lot. They were going to use it for the Olympics, and then that didn't go through, and now it's. And also it's like
Ariake and Odaiba, the area is like a Tokyo Bay area, and half the place is landfill. Yeah, it's like a city is expanding into more and more towards Tokyo Bay, because city within Tokyo, like look at it like a Manhattan. It's not that big, but it's crammed with 12 million people, The development, all the new building go towards Tokyo Bay, and Ariake was part of it, and still is. Anyhow, that you would think that when the company split like this, it would be like either 50-50 or 40-60 or 30-70 at most. But it was everybody, ring announcer, referees, the ring crew, the concession guys, production guy, office worker, almost everybody. Okay?
Right.
So you would think All Japan, that the old All Japan Pro Wrestling, Mrs. Baba's company would go down, huh?
I'm pretty sure there was like a scare with that, like wonder what's going to happen.
And around the same time, yes, Jumbo passed away. At the age of 47. He had cancer, and he probably had it for years, but didn't tell anybody about it, So he came off really shocking. All the odd timing. So the Baba dies in 99, and Jumbo dies 2000. It like almost like externally, like a brand new era happened without any force. Or maybe it was, I don't know, it's like a strange way to think about it, but that's how history was written. Baba dies, the Jumbo Tsuruta, another icon, dies the following year.
The biggest star they had.
Yeah, and the Misawa 90s superstar becomes the real boss, opening up his own company, right? Brand new era.
Yeah.
What was so interesting is, though, that's when Mrs. Baba decided to run her own All Japan Pro Wrestling. No, I ain't quitting, And
this is war.
Yeah, Toshiaki Kawada and Masafuchi were the only two wrestlers remained with his company.
Well, there was also, I want to jump in because we interviewed him. Taiyo Kea was also there, right? Because he was a part of the dojo. He trained, so he's kind of one of them.
Misawa always thought Taiyo Kea, Mauna Kea Mossman, was Baba's boy and Mrs. Baba's boy, and they discovered him in Hawaii. They had a condominium in Hawaii. Between tours, they go to Hawaii and stays like a second home. And Taiyo Kea was a nephew of King Curtis. King Curtis.
He did mention that, yeah.
Yeah, King Curtis was a friend of Baba's, so they're like relatives, And Misawa didn't really think, Taiyo Kea would come. Around that time, he was back in Hawaii, So he wasn't never a part of the plan. But yes, naturally, Taiyo Kea was Mrs. Baba's boy. So it's 3.
Right.
That's when Mrs. Baba made a phone call to Genichiro Tenryu.
Yeah, when he wasn't technically allowed back.
Yeah, after 10 years or so. Needed the main event guy.
Question for you. I have heard that Tiger Kihara was actually the guy that brokered Baba and Tenryu, basically coming to to talking, right? Because there's all that bad blood, right? But I had heard that Tiger Kihara was Tenryu liked him, Mrs. Baba trusted him, and so I heard he was the middleman for that. Do you have any light you can shed on that, or is there any truth to that?
Look at it this way. Mrs. Baba wouldn't pick up a phone and call Tenryu. She would have someone call him for her.
Right. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Well, middleman sounds way too important. Yeah, well, but that's
the handyman.
Way too low, that Tiger Kihara is also a veteran, He started out as a ring crew, and he worked for the company, and he worked his way up to second ring announcer, and also he was the charge of all the sound, PA system, and all these sound. He's the only one knows how to run the music and the sound and speakers and all these things at the building. He still does that today. And also another important figure, more so than Tiger, is Kohei Wada. Yeah, senior referee. Yeah, he had a very important role. And also, if people don't know much about Kohei Wada, he was a main referee for the 10-year that you guys call it a 4th pillar of heaven.
Yeah,
that's translation. It's Shitenno. Shitenno. Yeah, Shitenno means 4 emperors.
Yeah, that's
Four Pillars of Heaven is very much that translated. And I didn't hear about this for until a couple years ago, and I said, "What's that? What's that?" And it's a last little bit nuance in translation, I think. Yeah, I thought it was four emperors: Misawa, Kawada, Kobashi, Taue. So Misawa against Kawada, the Misawa against Kobashi, the Kobashi against Kawada, the Kawada against Taue. You have all that, right?
Oh yeah, we have all those.
For me,
every single one of those matches was refereed by Kyohei Wada. The senior referee until then was late Joe Higuchi, Giant Papa's #1 referee. Joe Higuchi couldn't handle all those big high spots anymore. Misawa against Kobashi, the Misawa against Kawada, the Kawada against Kobashi. You think about that. You go through those 15, 20, 25-minute long high spot that you have to remember that Joe Higuchi couldn't do. That it was Kyohei Wada's time that he can handle all those. So he was just every bit as important as those four guys.
Absolutely agree.
Agreed.
Yeah. And also, he was usually driving Mr. and Mrs. Baba's car. Yeah. Lincoln Continental. I mean,
right.
Sound almost cliche, but they had nice cars, okay? But
right.
Baba or Mrs. Baba wouldn't drive unless it's absolutely necessary. Usually have somebody. Yeah. To drive, and actually Kyohei Wada was always driving their cars every day. Like a #1 guy. So Misawa did not. They're friends, great friends, but Misawa did not really tell Kyohei Wada much about the detail, thinking that Kyohei might tell Baba. Yeah, so they're friends though. Don't get me wrong, but on this. Going, all the guys quitting and forming company and all the little details and dates and all this, he could not tell Kyohei about it.
In a business aspect, yes.
Yeah. Therefore, Kyohei Wada stayed with the company too. And now also the day all the guys resigned and made the first move, Kyohei was driving Mrs. Baba's car that day. And also, I believe that the Kyohei Wada was going to be very loyal to the company, and he is still All Japan Pro Wrestling Company. Today, 20 years later, he's still there.
Yes, he is. I mean, his relationship with Kento alone, like when you watch the matches, it's too good.
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm saying? It's too good.
Love their counters.
Yeah, because referee knows more about this than him.
He's like you're duff and like slaps him.
Yeah. So back to we gotta rewind the tape a little bit. That that was right when Mrs. Baba said, "No, I ain't quitting. We gotta keep this All Japan Pro Wrestling going." And you have Kawada, you have Masafuchi, you have Taiyo Kea, and then we'll get the Tenru back, and all the good independent guys like Jinsei Shinzaki, Hakushi. Other few guys and all the call up bunch of American wrestlers, we can have show and then keep going. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Steve Williams, yeah, but right around the time that was when he would start getting sick.
Right.
It's like this fate and this has very strange twist. All the guys who were at their prime in late 90s into 2000s, that one by one they start
they got ill.
Yeah, they go their own way, have to deal with their own lives, and that's probably that's when Stan Hansen decided to put a hat, the time for him to really, really retire. Then he did retire in 2001, right? Stan Hansen?
I believe around that, yes.
So that was end of an era for sure, and the beginning of an era. And it's a new century. It's very symbolic. Does that make sense?
And not too much. Yeah, not too much longer after that is when we get the first appearance of Muto in All Japan. And then once that happens, it's like everything changes, and it changes like in a blink of an eye, because he just shows up. And then he wins the Triple Crown,
2001 as a freelancer, See,
Right.
That was where I was a little confused at, because it's like, okay,
Muto did not officially join All Japan until 2002. During the course of 2001, he was technically still under New Japan contract.
yes.
And also was working in the States too. The previous year was dying day of WCW.
Oh, I totally remember that. I lost my mind when he won the tag belts with Vampiro in WCW. It was only for like a day, but I was like, oh my god, the Muta got to win more belts.
Yeah, he was one of those people. Muto, I'm talking about Keiji Muto.
Right.
He was one of those people. He witnessed like a first-hand experience. He really witnessed the dying day of WCW.
Yeah.
He knew months ahead of time. Like I spoke with him that summer, summer of 99, 2000, that this company is going down. He said. So that's when Power to Be, Angle, and all these important names are quitting, and they put the guys like whomever, what Sample's name, you know what I'm saying? Definitely going down, and he understood that this is how not to run business, you know? Yeah, and then he shaved his head with new appearance, and he started, coming back to Japan, and another key person was Hiroshi Hase. It was Hiroshi Hase's basic idea to have Muto come into All Japan. He was already a politician then, but never retired. And he always come back and make, few matches a year. Yeah, All Japan wrestler. But Hiroshi Hase had a very interesting role in this too. He told Misawa that he'll join later. And he told Mrs. Baba that he's staying.
That's mind blowing.
Yeah, but he has to look after himself too.
Right.
And he's a politician. He's a politician, but he has this power, not a power, but this strategy, or also very good friend with Muto. They told Muto, it's like, how about this idea, going to work for All Japan?
Right.
Yeah. And think about this New Japan roster then, that you have enough top-notch main event card and lineup and storyline and everything, that where would Muto fit in? That's why he left the company in the first place 2 years back.
That makes a lot of sense, because I remember distinctly on his way out when he was still IWGP Heavyweight Champion, right before he drops it, he's like starting to do this weird kind of pseudo shooter kind of deal. He starts using the cross arm breaker because all the guys in Pride, they're starting to become even more famous than the pro wrestlers. The MMA is the bubble is still building, and so you've got all these huge guys, and they do Pride, and then they go and they do pro wrestling, and then they go into Pride, and it sort of like puts their stock up really high, And so I remember Muto winning the...
There was an influence on Anthony Inoki's part then that he would send New Japan wrestler into another company, MMA company. It's a shoot situation. You might lose. And as a matter of fact, a lot of, like so-called shooter type wrestlers like, Nagata, Kendo Kashin or Nakanishi, legitimate college wrestling champions. They go out there and kind of lose it, and that was beginning of Japanese dark age of professional wrestling. You thought that during like a mid to late 90s, Nobuhiko Takada was the top of the mountain, right?
Right.
And have two Tokyo Dome match with Hickson Gracie, lose both of them. And a couple years later, the king of Pancras, Masakatsu Funaki, have another Tokyo Dome match against Hickson Gracie. He loses it. It's like, oh my gosh, what happened to pro wrestling, right? In the general public, not just hardcore wrestling fans, but the general public guys, when MMA, Pride, and K1 was getting bigger, it's like, what if wrestling was real? It would not look like that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. No, I get what you mean.
Yeah, and then a lot of people started running those... they didn't have the term MMA yet, but it was like a professional fight, or you just have like some name for it, no horse barred something. And
Right.
they
True
recruit
fight.
recruit
Baritudo.
people like Baritudo, that too. And not just New Japan wrestlers, but the people like Bam Bam Bigelow in Japan, going up against guys like Kimo.
Right.
Bam Bam Bigelow loses it. Oh my God, And that was the beginning of the Dark Age. Anyhow, that Muto came back to Japan to test the water, right?
Right.
The idea was that it would be better for Muto to voluntarily work for 2001 version of All Japan Pro Wrestling, as a freelancer.
Okay.
Yeah, and then pretty much made a lot of dream match come true. Tenru against Keiji Muto, Muto against Kawada and stuff like that. That was still dream match then. All those things happened.
Right, because All Japan and New Japan hadn't worked together in some time at that point. It'd been like almost 10 years since Wrestle Summit.
That was 2001. Secretly, New Japan tried to buy Motoko Baba's All Japan.
What was the offer they had?
I have no idea. But New Japan tried to buy All Japan Pro Wrestling to own two major companies at the same time. Very similar to WWE buying WCW. But this is wrestling, What would happen? That's all what ifs, all what ifs that take place.
That is a big what if.
Yeah, it's a big what if. Because when Vince McMahon bought WCW, he did not take care of it.
Oh, no.
That was a competition that he beat. If you put WCW brand as equal to Monday Night Raw or your SmackDown, wait a minute. We tried so hard to kill them, right?
Right.
Therefore, they did not treat WCW as their equal. Makes sense.
Yeah, it was like sending a message.
Yeah. If New Japan bought that 2001 version of All Japan, would they be a two-major league? I think they were going to kill it.
I want to step in just real quick, and I want to just say there was a period not too long ago, very similar to what you're talking about, but not quite there, is the fact that New Japan was fun. Well, I mean, they sent over, Jado as the booker, right? They sent over Jado as the booker. They put Suzuki-gun in Noah, right? So it's basically like
help
New
them
Japan
out for a year.
Exactly. New Japan's parent company was propping them up for a solid year, and the Noah fans completely remember that. The ones that have been around for a while, they remember that. They were detested by it. They were not happy by it, and it really kind of shook the confidence in Noah.
This is another element of wrestling. Each company, you have loyal fan base. The fans who loved, Misawa's version of Pro Wrestling Noah didn't want to have anything to do with New Japan color,
Yeah, especially during Suzuki's run.
Yeah, Nagata, like an actual title match is like Kenta against, Nagata, Yuji Nagata. It was a good match. But New Japan is like a strong paint, they come in and paint all over and change the whole color of the promotion. And loyal fan base of Pro Wrestling Noah did not like that. Yeah, well, just like that. Just like if you grew up in South, you would like WCW, If you grew up in New York State, or East Coast area, the only wrestling you love is WWE. Yeah, very different. If you grew up in Minnesota, AWA was it. But you guys are from different era. The more cable, the cable TV was there. The pay-per-view was there. You guys didn't even experience closed circuit or anything like that.
No, that's true. I did not. No.
Yeah, right into pay-per-view and on like a national promotions. Therefore, WCW and WWE, WWF.
Right.
Yeah. Baba's All Japan and Inoki's New Japan was like that. Two distinctive style, different channel, network channel, different fan base. Inoki's religion and Baba's religion.
And you have to have them both too in order for it to
be
of
course I watched
picture of wrestling. Yeah.
It was like okay, give me another 30 seconds of it.
Go ahead.
Giant Baba's All Japan traditionally was like your Hollywood movie. You bring in Harley Race, you bring in Mil Mascaras, you bring in Bruiser Brody, Stan Hansen, and they have them work just like American style. Okay?
Right.
Whereas Antonio Inoki's New Japan, you bring in top name American, Andre the Giant, anybody, young Hulk Hogan, Inoki beat him. Yeah, so it's two different color.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, that was a split, and that the war had officially begun. Pro Wrestling Noir and Mrs. Baba's version of All Japan Pro Wrestling.
We need to take a break. You know what? Let's take a quick break. We will be right back. This is SUWAMA'S Station, the official podcast of All Japan Worldwide Fan Group. Okay, folks, we are back. Thank you for joining us for SUWAMA'S Station, the official podcast of All Japan Worldwide Fan Group. This is Dave, and this is Matt.
I want to rewind a bit with when Baba was still around. When he was ill, was there anyone that was like helping him out, like take care of the business, like helping like with bookings, like whatever Baba needed when he was sick? Was there anyone particular that took over for a bit, like briefly?
Like, I mean, booking or?
No, basically whatever Baba needed, like the help, like while Baba was getting ill. Like, did anyone like step in to help out for a show here and there?
Baba was working in the ring up on 2 weeks before his death.
Wow. I didn't even.
The last match he had in his life was 6-man tag team: Giant Baba, Andre the Giant, and Rasha Kimura. None of them was none of them was around anymore.
No.
Right.
Yeah. So he was working until December of 1998, and he died in January of 1999.
That's pretty remarkable, because it kind of just shows you how dedicated he was to his company, to All Japan, and it sounds more like a father figure or like a parent than a businessman.
Father figure. Jumbo was the oldest son. Misawa was the second oldest son. Onita was another son who ran away from home. Yeah.
Agreed.
And Tenryu is another one who ran away.
Tenryu was another son who left. Whereas Inoki's New Japan always had a power play, Maeda leaves, Takada leaves, to become another company king.
There was an interview that happened just this year that said, I think Tenryu was saying, it was Maeda and Tenryu, and they did an interview, and supposedly back before UWF was going to remerge into New Japan, they briefly went to go and try to negotiate something with All Japan, but supposedly Baba only wanted Maeda and Takada, right?
Yeah, those two. You're talking about 1986, when original UWF went down. Inoki wanted everybody back, Fujiwara, Kido, Yamazaki, everybody. Baba wanted to use Maeda and Takada, those two only. Tall, good-looking wrestlers. I mean, superstar to be.
Yeah, Maeda's huge. I mean, he's legitimately a big guy.
Oh yeah.
Maeda, yeah. Maeda was also another like a wrestling philosopher that he hated the fact he goes out to the bars and just like America, somebody. I wouldn't say Mark, but somebody will come up to you and say, wrestling's no fake, ain't it? And he hated that,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he wanted to make his wrestling as real as possible. Therefore, later on, UWF and Rings. At the end of Rings, it's complete 100% MMA.
Right. That's why guys like Fedor is working there, and Randy Couture is working there because it's legit. So it's like, okay, we'll go and do that. We're not going to do wrestling.
Antonio Nogueira, yeah, all those guys were discovered by Rings. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that too, and they should really go and do their homework. But it's like, yeah, Rings introduced a slew of MMA of guys who would eventually become the pillars of MMA.
To America and become UFC superstars. Yes. So it's safe to say MMA, UFC, and professional wrestling are still cousins.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Go back
to whatever we were talking about.
The Noah split, yeah.
So there was 2001 version of All Japan, and after 1 year, Mrs. Baba was ready to retire and hand All Japan company to somebody, and Keiji Muto was it. Yeah, Keiji Muto, officially resigned with New Japan and joins All Japan and becomes legitimate president of the company. By then, Tenryu left again.
Was Tenryu kind of priming himself to be in position to run All Japan, and it just seemed more like Baba was more wanting to give it to Muto, or was it, like, what was the thing? Was there ever a contest between Muto and Tenryu for who was going to control All Japan for the next few years?
Basically, Tenryu and Keiji Muto, two different generations. See?
Right.
Yeah. Muto is same age with Misawa, and same age group with, people like Masachono and Shinya Hashimoto, Hiroshi Hase, yeah, all that. And Tenryu is same age as Jumbo and Riki Choshu. And Riki Choshu, the then booker of New Japan, Riki Choshu and Tenryu are actually personal, good friends. And Riki Choshu was the one who recruited Tenryu to headline all the Tokyo Dome show the next 2 or 3 years. Yeah. Tenryu against Riki Choshu again. Tenryu against Fujinami, the veterans, legend match. Tenryu against Kensuke. Tenryu against Chono. Tenryu against Hashimoto. You'll have all the dream match, that could be made. So secretly, they didn't say it at the time because they wanted to treat Tenryu as outsider. That gets over better, right? But Tenryu basically signed a contract with New Japan following year. Yeah. So under New Japan wing. Because Muto's idea was going to run his own company for the first time. Yeah. But at the same time, other forces within New Japan who wanted to buy out, All Japan and all that things, and Mrs. Baba wanted to sell the company to somebody who can run All Japan separately, not under New Japan wing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, and then Keiji Muto was going to leave New Japan for real. Yeah.
So it made it easier for her to give it to him at the long run.
Yeah, and then to have Hiroshi Hase as a real middleman. Yeah.
This is gold and has gone way better than I totally imagined.
Really?
Oh, my goodness.
Oh no! This is great. We really do love this.
Yeah, this is giving us a lot of back channels on things where things aren't necessarily crystal clear because nobody in the English community, English speaking, community for All Japan has really kind of written up anything that is like really kind of substantial. A few people have gone and translated pieces from Yahoo Japan and Sponichi and things like that, to kind of put pieces together, but to be able to get it, somebody who's
never so reliable as a news source because there's just a sports writer who happened to be writing wrestling news at the time, and nobody's really specialist in that field.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yahoo, that's the internet. Yeah.
Yes, the power of the internet. So
exactly,
we want to say thank you to Fumi Saito for joining us and giving us such a big, in-depth. This is, like I said, this has gone way better than I've totally imagined.
Yeah, it's a good conversation, and we're just picking your brain.
I can come back and do it again.
Please,
sometime.
yes, we would be so delighted. We would be so delighted if you'd come back on sometime. We will find something very good to talk about topical-wise.
We didn't get the Suwama era. Muto recruited a whole bunch of good rookie. Suwama, Kai, Hiroshi Yamato, Sanada, all those guys. Some of them made it, some of them kind of didn't. But and Kento Miyahara didn't really come from All Japan school. He's Kensuke Sasaki pupil.
Right.
What's interesting today is two best students of Kensuke Sasaki, Katsuhiko Nakajima, top guy from Noah, and Kento Miyahara, top guy of All Japan now. Those two guys were Kensuke Sasaki students.
Right. And it's a pretty strange parallel if you look at it, at the time, it's amazing.
Like what would happen if Kensuke ran it?
About, the ill-fated World Japan Pro Wrestling for the brief 2-year period. Riki Choshu left New Japan and formed his own company. Riki Choshu, Tenryu, Masa Saito, and Vader Road Warriors. Yeah.
Takao Omori came back later to join that.
Right.
Too.
Right. So there were a 2-year period that happened. We have to touch upon.
Yeah, no,
Oh, yeah,
most definitely.
definitely.
I would love to do that. And you know what? Let's just plan on that in the coming future, because you know what? Again, not a lot of people talk about that. We actually have people in our group that are like clamoring for that. Like, oh man, nobody's talked about the Muto era. You know, that whole time where it's like from 2002.
Yeah, then therefore you would have better understanding of today's product too.
Oh no, most definitely, most definitely.
Yeah, because the rivalry between Suwama and Kento Miyahara is pretty real, because they came from 2 different backgrounds. Therefore, 2 different philosophy in wrestling.
Yeah, no, most definitely.
They're for real. Yeah. See, wrestling's a lot more real than people would think,
Absolutely.
Absolutely, 100%. I can agree with that.
Yeah. And I want people to be interested in history, therefore you have better understanding of what you're watching today.
No,
I agree.
Most
100%.
definitely.
Yeah.
Whatever you've got going on, we would love to hear about.
Yes,
Whatever.
and please come back, because we would love to have you back.
Really? Yeah, that's good. Because that's my role to, tell these, you guys that you have better understanding. There's no boundary,
Absolutely not. But are you working on
that's-
anything you'd like to talk about or like to plug before we in the interview?
Or your, All Japan fan, worldwide fan base people, just email your questions and I will answer it.
See,
You
now
heard-
that
you heard
was class. That is class right there, folks. If you can hear us, if you've got questions for Fumi Saito, drop them to us. Yes.
Yeah, email us and we will have your questions answered. Whatever you want to know. This is big
Also,
opportunity.
You can find me, Fumi Saito, on Facebook or Fumihiko Dayo on Twitter. Fumihiko Dayo, Fumihiko Dayo, Fumihiko Dayo. That's Twitter.
I actually just added you on Facebook as we were talking.
Okay.
So
we just
have
had
the world understanding.
We've had a fantastic time just having a great conversation about pro wrestling, and that's a great thing about this podcast and what we try to emphasize, which is just we're a worldwide group because we're trying to bridge the gap all the way from Japan all the way over to the Pacific, other side of the Pacific where I'm at in California, but there's so many people that want to know more and learn more. And that's what our group is all about, is having good, friendly conversations about
we love so dearly.
yeah, exactly.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Now, we want to make sure that you folks are, you're subscribed to the YouTube channel where you'll be hearing this. We want to make sure that you're following us through Chairshot Radio Network, through Chairshot. We go through Spotify, and we join the killer lineup of all the other awesome shows talking about wrestling from all over the world.
Promote this episode, and we'll have more subscribers.
Yes, yeah.
Believe me,
we promote
exactly.
like through the nose. We bust our butts to get ourselves out there. But we want to make sure that you're checking us out through Spotify, through the Chairshot Radio Network. We want to make sure that you're subscribed to us to YouTube. We want to make sure that you're checking us out on the Facebook group. It's All Japan Worldwide Fan Group. We're also on Twitter at AJPW Worldwide, because we're keeping current with all the stuff going on with All Japan, and we also love dipping our toes back into the waters of nostalgia. We were just talking about the Noah split. We talked with Taiyo Kea earlier in the month about his time in All Japan, and we love doing this, and we love giving this to you folks, and we hope that you're subscribed. We hope that you're checking us out. We hope that you're telling everybody how cool that this stuff is, so that they can get exposed to it and they can dig it as well. And I can only say that we've got more interviews to come and more awesome talks about All Japan. And again, thank you so much to Fumi Saito. Thank you to Matt for being an awesome co-host. We want to thank Fumi again because we had such a blast. We learned so much. We had no idea about certain details, and he sheds light on the subject in such a way that it's just, I wish there was a book about this whole thing. But we want to say again, thanks so much to Fumi Saito, and we would love to have him back on the show. So let's get over to part 2 of that interview with Taiyo Kea. And we are, again, very grateful for him to have given us the time to talk with us, and we hope he will be back as well. We have an awesome time doing these interviews, and we hope you're enjoying them as well. We hope you're subscribed to the YouTube. You're checking us out on the Spotify, and let's get over to that part 2 of the interview. So let's we move forward a bit, and we get to the end of the 2000s. We start rolling into January of 2001, and you have this huge opportunity. You're going to wrestle Keiji Muto, who is arguably, one of the most internationally recognized wrestlers that comes from Japan. And I mean, that's like the beginning of a whole relationship with you and BATT and, working with Muto. Can you kind of tell us about like what was going through your mind when you're finding out about, you're going to face him in the Tokyo Dome, if I'm not mistaken, January, and that's got to be like just huge. You're just like, wow, like mind blown kind of thing. Can you walk us through that, like when you found out and everything?
Sure. Yeah, man. I remember like the first time I was told about it was, it was like right before it. It can't be that close. Anyway, I remember I was at Korakuen Hall, and Mrs. Baba coming up to me and asking me like, Tokyo Dome show, you wrestle Muto Cage, you wrestle him single match, okay? And I was like, wait, huh? And I was like, yeah. I mean, it was like one of those, when you say yes, but you're excited, but then you're kind of intimidated, and you're kind of like, wait, yeah? And then I was like, yeah, sure. And then I was like, holy shit. And then, yeah, man. And he was one of those, so Muto like was one of those guys with like, like I used to see like great Muta, and I was like, I was freaking, oh, this guy's awesome. And like, what things he could do and how fast and agile he was. And yeah, man, it was pretty exciting. And then leading up to, so, never met him before, never saw him in person before. Day of the show, freaking, first time I ever met him, like walking, we were passing each other, like in the hallway. I was like, oh, hi, man, hajimemashite, or nice to meet you, introduce myself. And I was like, holy shit, he's a lot bigger than I thought he was. Like, this, like this, you watch somebody like on TV or whatever. I never thought like he was a bigger dude. Like, and I was like, fuck, this guy's pretty big. And then, yeah, he's a good sized guy. And actually, like, we talked about this later. Like, man, I think you got like Hawaiian or Samoan in you. I don't think you're pure Japanese, because his bone structure, if you really like look at him, like he's a thick dude, But yeah, that was like that. First time I met him was the day of the Tokyo Dome. Like, yeah, and it was like, I had a fun time, and I was just like super, you had, how many thousands of people in front of you, and just like, just like you're here with a big star, and like, yeah, it was cool. It was like one of those moments in my life where, like, yeah, I look back and it's like, oh, that was awesome,
Yeah, I'm going to jump in real fast just because I want to give a little bit of context for listeners who are not fully kind of immersed in the background of the early 20s All Japan, right? So this is actually more of a New Japan thing too, is Keiji Muto, the great Muta, had spent 2000 over in a good chunk of 2000 WCW because he could play that card, because he was that well known in New Japan. He could just get over to WCW. He's over in WCW. At the end of 2000, he shows up at a show for Inoki. And he comes out with his bald head and his new trunks, and he has this new look. And so you basically get to face him right when that's like literally like a month, maybe even a few weeks after that. So I mean that's even bigger. You kind of got to see him right before it starts getting to him being, the Pudesu love, and the hand gesture, and using the Shining Wizard on a regular basis, and that's like a big thing in not just Japanese wrestling history, but in like wrestling history itself, because he would go on to just go on a tear that year. In 2001, he goes and wins the Triple Crown against Tenryu, and then you wind up winning tag team titles with him, if I'm not mistaken, for not only for New Japan, right? You're a New Japan tag team champion, and so I mean that's wow, you know, that doesn't happen. Like you mentioned, just getting the opportunity to work with him, that doesn't just happen to anybody. You know, so like, what do you have any memories of when you started tagging with him, when you started being a part of BATT with Shinzaki and him and Hase
and Don Fry? Yeah, right. He was a part of that. I mean, occasionally, right, with that, and yeah, it was man. That was actually, it was super cool because you go from All Japan. And then you have the All Japan split with Noah. And then you go down to like, oh shit, this company's going to go down and we're just going to be a little indie company until like, we partner up with, New Japan. And then I started doing New Japan tours, which is like, man, they were like up there at that time, like they Team 2000 and like, they did just like, their houses were better at that time. Their just everything about it was like a level up that time. And so, man, I enjoyed like doing tours with those guys. And I remember even who was it? I remember like even Scott Hall. Like I worked Scott Hall during that time. Different other guys, New Japan guys, even like seeing the. Because during that time too, they had like all that stuff with Pride, and the Pride guys were working right with New Japan. So I remember like riding the Gaijin bus, the foreigner bus with those guys, and then hanging out with them, going out and having some beers and everything else with those guys. So man, it was a good time. It was a fun time. Like it was like Don Fry and we went out like it was like we were in Sapporo, up in Hokkaido, and like we were like freaking to like early mornings, just like, yeah, it was awesome. But
you can see him in I don't know if he's done a movie in a while, but he was in Public Enemies with Johnny Depp and was it Chris? I think Christian Bale is in there too. But I mean, that's crazy how Don went into movies and he did that Godzilla movie. I mean, that guy is so cool. I love Don Fry, and I feel bad for not have mentioning him, but I'm glad that you definitely piped in that he was a member of BATT, because like originally it's like you and Otani and Fry and Muto, but then Otani winds up going to do the 0-1 thing, and that's scrubbed, and then Shinzaki comes, and then Hase gets revealed. I mean, I remember this period very fondly, just because all these things came unexpectedly with Muto jumping in, and then BATT forming, and the interaction with Team 2000. I dug it all. Moving along, we get to you and the year. I'm sorry, Matt, did you want to chime in?
Oh yeah. During your time with Muto, what have you learned from Muto during your time like tagging with him? Like, did you pick his brain? Like, what did you get out of him, like information wise, to help you grow as a competitor in the long run?
His timing was awesome, and he had the timing and the charisma, I didn't have as much the charisma as he did, but yeah, his timing and charisma were awesome, and just like knowing like his gut reactions, that he would do when he was wrestling were pretty like amazing. And yeah, he was just funny. There's a way how he would talk too sometimes, like in normal conversations that I would have with him and stuff. But yeah, very charismatic guy. Doing pro wrestling business wise, I mean, for himself, I thought he was like just very good. Like for All Japan in general as a boss, sometimes I I don't know how good of a decision that was, but it's different when you're in that place, right? And you're the one in charge. You're making these calls and stuff. So,
right.
Yeah, he's but he was yeah. This is like yeah.
Hey, we have had a fantastic king-sized episode of SUWAMA'S Station. I want to thank Matt, my co-host, for joining us. We want to say thanks again to Chairshot Radio Network for hosting us on Spotify. We really appreciate it. We hope you're checking out all the other cool stuff that they've got going on. We hope that you're checking out All Japan Worldwide Fan Group on Twitter as well as on Facebook. Just look us up and you will find us, and we will try our best to get the newest updates and events on what's going on with All Japan for the English speaking folks out there, the audience. We want to say thanks again to Cage Match and Pudolove for all the events, all the information that they cover is fantastic, and it really is a big help to us. We want to say thanks again. Strigger just had a birthday not too long ago. Happy birthday, Strigger. And we wanted to also make sure that you're checking out all the cool stuff that we've got going on in the group. We are actually just going to hit our 3rd anniversary in a couple of days, and so we're probably going to have a watch party to celebrate that. And if you're in the group by that point, you got to check it out and we haven't had a good watch party in a while, but I don't see a reason why we can. It's the holidays, right? So Matt, what are you covering on Chairshot right now away from All Japan?
Well, actually, I am done with show reviews for the rest of the year because it is holiday season. But I am going to write my top 25 matches of 2020. That should be out the day after Christmas. 5 matches a day up until the New Year's Eve to end the year that we have had. So definitely check it out. 2021 should be special. I have talked to Fumi about a one-on-one interview that will probably happen soon. I don't have a day yet. I am planning more interviews in the future in general, along with SUWAMA'S Station and then just solo stuff. But again, definitely a lot more writing, a lot more talking. That is my goal for 2020, at the end of 2020 to 2021. So definitely keep an eye out for it.
Awesome. We are also, myself and Matt are also planning on doing a best of 2020 match list for All Japan as well. I'm not sure when Matt will drop his, but I'll probably have mine closer towards the first 2 weeks of the new year, just so I have time to kind of compile things and process, because that's a bit of a task to go through all these matches and all these events and be like, here's the pick of the litter, so to speak. But we love All Japan and we love doing the show, and we really are going to make sure that we have a hell of a list that you guys can go and follow and check out and see if you dig these matches as well. And that's going to do it for us in this episode of SUWAMA'S Station. I want to say thanks again to Matt for joining us, and I want to say thanks again to everybody for listening in and subscribing. We will be back next month with part 3 of our interview with Taiyo Kea, as well as the events of December and possibly a little bit into January. I mean, more than likely we will wait for the January shows, the early ones at Kurkin, to be done so we can kind of discuss things at length. We have time to, kind of process them and, get some feelings about them. And we're really looking forward to that. So, again, we want to say thank you for joining us. We'll see you back next month. This is Dave and Matt saying Blue Justice.